Good morning, good morning, good morning. Dr. Roddenberry coming to you live from the University of Rijeka library here in cloudy, rainy Rijeka, Croatia today. It is, uh, it is 3 p.m. here, and I hope you are having a nice morning wherever you happen to be. Actually, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Learning for tomorrow. Tomorrow's the big test? Good luck, man. You can do this. You can do this. All you need is a 50, right? Cool. Hi, Fanny. How you doing? Fantastic. I'm getting ready. I'm actually in class right now. I'll come see you in just a second, but congratulations, man. Oh, really? Okay, cool. You're going to be around tomorrow? What time's your exam? In the morning, 8:30. I'll be here about 2 o'clock. I hope to see you so I can find out if it went well for you, man. Good luck to both of you. Take care. Sorry, folks, I had a couple of undergraduate students that are preparing for their final chemistry exam, and they have been studying all week long for hours. And so I needed to cheer them up and make sure that they were feeling confident about that. Hi, Kaylee. Hi, Rose. Oh, wait a minute. Rosemarie's here. I thought you weren't coming today, lady. What in the world? I'm glad you didn't have that meeting. I always hate those meetings, so I'm glad you were able to skip out on it. Is Mr. Barris with you today? Rosemarie, is John here? If you are, John, hello. It's good to see you. Imani, thanks for coming today. And Nicole, good to see you too. Wow, we've got a big crowd as always. You know, you developmental psychology students are awesome. So, cool. So are you ready for this? He's hunting this morning. Oh, nice. I'm not a hunter. What season is it right now? It's September. Hi, Ty. Good to see you. I don't even know what you hunt. I'm a fisher kind of guy. I like to sit out by the pond with a fishing pole and a cold beer. Ah, he's bow hunting for deer. Cool. All right. You have to get close to him to get him with that bow. That's cool. Excellent. Well, I hope he gets lucky and brings you home something to eat, Rosemarie. But at any rate, let's go ahead and talk about the exam. Your first exam is this week. Remember, it'll become available Friday morning at 9 a.m. and it's going to be due Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. Now, don't forget, just like every other week, you still have a discussion board due tomorrow night at 11:59, and you still have a final exam. I mean, you still have a homework due Friday night, so nothing's changed. Still got to do your discussion board, still got to do your homework, but then we're going to add one more thing to you. It's an exam this week, okay? Cool. Looks like we have 11 people here. If anybody wants to check in and say hello, tell me how your day's going, that's fine. Am I coming through well enough? Is my video okay? I see, based because of this white room that I'm in, you're sort of getting these waves on the screen. And I've tried, there's nothing I can do with it. We've just got this, this weird looking wave that keeps coming through the screen. I'll see if I can fix that. But you can hear me well enough, I hope. Cool, excellent. All right, cool. Well, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see. I put a review sheet, a very detailed review sheet in the exam folder, and that's what I'm going to be going. Okay, okay. Sounds like Ronique is trying to get here just as fast as he can. Okay. Ronique, don't get in a wreck. Do the best you can. I'm going to go ahead and start slowly and be talking. This stuff I'm talking about at the beginning, you won't need to see the screen for, but I'm just going to go ahead and give a little introduction on the mechanics of the exam. So, oh, goodness me, I do that every time. I have to get off of this screen first. I'm going to go to right here. Let's see, where am I? Right, hold on, right here. Right here. Okay, boom. There we go. You should be able to see my screen now. Uh-oh, it's getting a little choppy. You should be able to see my screen now. Okay, so this is your Blackboard web page. If you'll notice, The review for the exam is listed here on the announcements page, and it's also listed in the exam folder. So let's go ahead and click on the exam folder to find out how you would access this exam. So we're going to go to the lessons. We're going to click on that. Ronique, you probably already know this, okay? And once you get to the lessons folder, you'll see at the very top of the lessons folder is the exam folder. And you'll notice the due date, due Sunday. Holy cow, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong stinking class. I'm in the wrong class altogether. Here we go. All right, this is your class. Goodness me. Where are the modules? Okay, so if you look right here, you'll see on the exam folder, it says Exam 1 due Sunday, September 18th by 11:59 p.m. That is this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Okay, now we're going to click on the exam folder. Okay, now, the first thing you need to know is you are not allowed to use your books, notes, and websites for this exam. You are not allowed to use your notes, your books, or your computer for this exam. No Googling the answers. Now, in order to sort of try and dissuade you from cheating on this exam, I'm asking that students use the Lockdown browser this semester. How many of you have used the Lockdown browser? Go ahead and type in the chat bar and let me know who's used the Lockdown browser. How many of you have used that before? This is my first time using it, and I've already used it once before, and there were some problems I hadn't anticipated, so I'd like to find out how many of you know what you are doing. Kaylee, Nicole, fantastic. Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so we're using the Lockdown browser. If you have not used the Lockdown browser, you have to download it by clicking on this link. I have it right here on the top of your exam folder. You click on this Lockdown browser, and when you click on that, it's going to take you to the Respondus page. And here's the button where you install and download the app. And then before you use it, I would highly suggest, boom, boom, boom. Okay, here we go. So you're going to click on the Lockdown browser, boom, right here. Okay, and then it's going to take you to this page right here. This yellow button is where you go if you want to download the browser to your device, and you'll download it and install it just like a typical app. And then here is a short video overview that explains to you how you should use the Lockdown browser. Okay, and if you've never used it before, it would probably be worth your time to take a few minutes looking at that overview to make sure that it works as smoothly as possible for you. Okay, so one of the things you need to keep in mind, if you are using the Lockdown browser for the first time, not only do you have to download it, but you have to actually click on it and launch the browser before you take the exam. If you don't launch the Respondus browser when you click on the exam in Blackboard, it will not work. And I had a lot of students in my Psych 150 class that have never used Respondus before who reported that problem. And it's a simple problem. You just have to make sure to open the Respondus browser. I think you only have to open it the first time, but you definitely have to have it open when you access the test. Also, I did have some students reporting problems who were using MacBooks and Chromebooks. I think with the MacBook, there was something that they needed to update. So if you can avoid a MacBook or a Chromebook, do that. But if not, just be prepared. You might have some difficulty. Now, I have this exam, the Respondus set, so that you can complete this exam using an iPad. So if you have an iPad and you want to use that, just download the Respondus browser onto your iPad, and that will work fine. I had no complaints from students who used the iPad. All right? Now, just remember, I have any issues with that? Well, Rosemarie, we are going to find out, aren't we? So make sure you try to take that exam on Friday or Saturday, so if we do have problems, I can help you sort that out, okay, Rosemarie? But just remember, class, I'm a nice guy, and I am not going to let technical problems be the reason that you can't complete this exam. So if you have any problems, take a breath, relax, and send me an email or a text, and we will sort this out, okay? Just remember, just relax, and we'll figure this out. But I'm not going to let you fail this exam because you don't have because you have technical problems, okay? So we're all going to be relaxed and not stressed out about this exam, okay? Now, here's the deal. If you'll notice in the exam folder, I have an exam 1 review. Chapter 1 has 12 multiple choice questions. Wait a minute. Crudola, I did it again. You're in developmental psych, aren't you? Let me go to my modules. God, I get so confused sometimes. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is you. Okay. Chapter 1 through 4 is on this exam. There are 13 questions on Chapter 1, 12 multiple choice and 1 matching. There are 12 questions on Chapter 2, 7 multiple choice, 4 true, false, and 1 matching. There are 13 questions on Chapter 3, 9 multiple choice, 2 true, false, and 2 matching. And you'll notice that there are 12 questions on Chapter 4, 8 multiple choice, 3 true, false, and 1 matching. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger so that you can see it. Okay, hopefully that is big enough for you to see. Okay, I want to make sure that everybody can see what we're talking about. Good enough? All right. All right, so let's go through these chapters. What I'm going to do, this represents, if you'll notice down the side under Chapter 1, I just explained to you all the questions and I'm going to be asking. So there's 1 question on the definition of well-being, 3 questions on discriminating among the 3 domains of development. So you'll notice the numbers down the side tell you specifically how many questions I will have on each topic, okay? So the first thing I'm going to want you to do is to know the definition of well-being. Then if you remember, we talked about this book being organized on the 3 domains of development: cognitive, physical, and personality development, or socio-emotional development. I'm going to have 3 questions where I give you an example, and you're going to tell me if it's an example of cognitive development, an example of physical development, or an example of socio-emotional development. And I think I have a question in the homework on Chapter 1 that's sort of like this, so it'll be the same way. Now, we also had 2 questions on the periods of development. If you remember, I also suggested to you that this book was organized by age group into different periods of development. And this first couple of weeks, we're doing development in infancy. And you remember we had 8 periods of development, running from prenatal development all the way to old age. And then I also had another model of development, which was the 4 ages. And so I have 2 questions. One of those is a matching question on the periods of development, where you have to match the age groups to the developmental period that they represent. That one should be easy. And then there's a question on the 4 ages. I have a question on the 4 ages. So you have 2 questions on the periods of development. By the way, as I'm going through this, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat bar and I will answer them as I can. Okay? Then we also have a question. If you remember, we talked about the 3 debates in developmental psychology: nurture versus nature, stability versus change, and continuous versus stage changes of development. So I have 1 question where I'm going to ask you to tell me, am I talking about nature, nurture? Am I talking about stability versus change? Or am I talking about continuous development, okay? We also talked about contextual influences that affect development. So those are environmental influences. There's actually a PowerPoint slide on contextual influences. So I have 1 question on discriminating among the contextual influences. When I use the word discriminating, basically what it means is it's a general question and I want you to be able to tell me what I'm talking about. So when I say discriminating the 3 developmental debates, which debate am I talking about? That's what I mean when I use the word discriminating, okay? Now, in the first day of class, we talked about the lifespan approach, Paul Baltes and the lifespan approach. I have 1 general question about just the lifespan approach that Paul Baltes suggests in general. So I'm going to want you to be familiar with the lifespan approach by Baltes. Okay? Now, we then talked also about time span research designs. I talked about cross-sectional, longitudinal, and cross-sequential designs. Again, I'm going to give you an example of one of these 3 time span research designs, and you're going to have to be able to tell me, am I using a longitudinal design? Am I using a cross-sequential design? Or am I using a cross-sectional design? Okay? Now, in day 2 of chapter 1, we talked about the different theoretical approaches, the behavioral approach, the ecological approach, the cognitive approach, the psychodynamic approach. Again, I'm going to give you 2 examples, and I probably should have written discriminating instead of identifying, but I'm going to want you to identify which theoretical approach I'm talking about in the question. And then day 2 of chapter 1, we talked about the difference between theories and observations. And if you look in your PowerPoint, I'm going to give you examples of theory and a definition of what it is and how that's different from an observation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a statement, a set of 4 statements, and you're going to have to tell me which one is the theory or which one is the observation. So I want you to be able to discriminate between a theory and an observation. Okay, that represents the 13 questions on chapter 1. Does anybody have any questions about that? Any questions? See, we've still got 12 people. We lost a few people on the broadcast. That's okay. They probably found an interesting YouTube video or something on TikTok, but whatever, they'll come back. Any questions, folks? Any questions? I'm drinking some university tea here out of the tea machine. It's better than the coffee, I'm going to be honest with you. The coffee in the machine here at the school is absolutely horrible. Okay, nope, I don't see that we have any questions, so I'm going to go on and move to chapter 2. Okay, let's go back to chapter 2 now. And notice it seems like it's getting laggy on my side. Are any of you having problems? Am I coming through smooth, or is my video lagging? Can you hear me and can you see me well enough? Is it okay? If you could, somebody type in the chat bar. Kaylee, Rosemary, Ty, somebody let me know. I know, right? Couldn't live without coffee. Cool. You know, right, but I'm forced to drink the tea because this coffee is absolute garbage. Okay, good. All right, cool. Let's go on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 was all about genetics. There are 12 questions, 7 multiple choice, 4 true, false, and a matching question. Okay? So, the first slide we talked about behavioral genetics in general. What is behavioral genetics? How they decide whether or not something is genes or the environment. We talked about twin studies and adoption studies. So I have just 3 general questions where you will demonstrate your understanding of what behavioral genetics is. All right. Then I talked about gene concepts. We talked about karyotypes, genotypes, the individual genes, chromosomes, sex chromosomes versus autosomes. So I have just 2 general questions where you'll demonstrate that you know what a genome is, what a karyotype is, what a gene is, and what the difference between autosome and sex chromosomes are. I forget which 2 I asked you about, but I just want you to know those general concepts, if you will. Okay? Then there was a slide where I talked about the Human Genome Project, this project to map all the genes in the human genome. I have 1 general question about the Human Genome Project. I actually think it's a true-false question if I'm remembering it correctly. And so it's 1 sort of general question about the Genome Project. Okay? We then talked about chromosome and genetic abnormalities. Remember, I talked about Fragile X syndrome or Klinefelter syndrome or Down syndrome. So those are your chromosome disorders. And then I talked about genetic disorders like Tay-Sachs disease, sickle cell anemia, sickle cell anemia, and I forget. But basically I have one question where you identify the chromosomal disorder based on the description, and then I have a second question where you identify the genetic abnormality based upon the the description. So if I told you that this was a genetic abnormality that only occurred to people of African descent and affected their blood, which genetic abnormalities would it be? Spina bifida. Ooh, spina bifida. Okay, so I'm going to ask you those questions. There are a couple of questions about genotypes and phenotypes. Remember, genotypes are the instructions that occur in your genes, and the phenotype is actually what you turn out to look like, right? So I've got two general questions about genotypes and phenotypes, okay? And then there was a slide about prenatal diagnostic testing. And so I think we discussed 4 pre-diagnostic tests. I'm going to give you a description of one of these tests, and you're going to have to tell me which diagnostic test it is. Okay? That is chapter 2. We're now done with chapter 2. And I see Ronique is finally here in the classroom. I'm glad you hustled and made it into the review session, Ronique. Thanks for not getting in a wreck or hurting yourself. Sickle cell, boom, Monica Jennings, hold on, what do we do here? No, we do that, I'm sorry. I do this. There you go, Monica. A round of applause for Monica for being so good. Okay, hold on just a second, the window is open, and let me close it real quick. The street's kind of noisy outside. Okay, so let's go back to 5. All right, here we go. Okay, any questions about chapter 2? Chapter 2. Okay, 12 questions from chapter 2. Okay. If you remember, we talked about chapter 3. Chapter 3 was all about prenatal development, okay? So there are going to be 13 questions on prenatal development. 9 of these questions will be multiple choice. 2 of these questions will be true, false, and 2 of these questions will be matching, okay? And so let's see, goodness me, I forget which ones are the matching. I know that the first one is matching. There's a question on prenatal development, the different stages of prenatal development. So I'm pretty sure I have a matching question there. Basically, what I want you to know is what general things happen in the germinal stage, in the embryonic stage, and in the fetal stage. Of course, you need to know when organogenesis occurs. Now, if you remember, and we were talking about causes of death, and I want you just in general to know how the world compares to the rest of the world on infant mortality. Remember, I told you that dying the most dangerous time in your childhood life is the first year of life. And I just want you to know how the U.S. compares to the world for infant mortality. We talked about teratology as being the reason we're interested in these prenatal stages of development, what we can do during pregnancy to make sure our babies are born as healthy as possible. There are 2 general questions on teratology. Now, probably the 2 most specific and picky questions I have on this exam relate to blastocysts and embryonic differentiation during the germinal and embryonic period. So if you remember, I talked about the initial differentiation that happens in the germinal period as the little organism divides into a baby and a placenta. And then we talked about the differentiation that further occurs during the embryonic period when you have the endoderm, the mesoderm, and the ectoderm. And what I just want you to know the different parts of the baby that are composed of these different derms, endoderm, mesoderm, ectoderm. And then I want you to know about the blastocyst differentiation that occurs in the germinal period. So I have 2 questions about that. We talked, somebody just mentioned spina bifida, and we talked about the things you can do to promote healthy neural tube development. Can anybody tell me what do we need to do to promote healthy neural tube development if we think we're going to get pregnant? Does anybody remember what I said was a good thing for expectant mothers to do, or you to do if you're thinking about getting pregnant? Oh, boom, there you go. Let's go. All right, a little bit of applause for Rosemary, right on cue with the right answer. Fantastic. Okay, and then we had a question. We talked about the childbirth process. Remember, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. What happens in each of these stages of childbirth? Which one's the longest? Which one's the shortest? And which one would you? I forget that question, the specific questions, but there are 2 questions about these stages of childbirth. Prenatal vitamins. Very good, Ty. And I'm specifically going to want you to know about folic acid. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, now, if you remember, we talked about 3 infant assessments, APGAR and a couple more in-depth assessments that are done. The APGAR happens right after birth, and the others can occur days later. And I generally just want you to know what these different infant assessments do. And I see I have a typo right there. It's not an infant assessment, it's an infant assessment. You know what, I'll fix that after the class is over. So I want you to know a little bit about the 3 types of infants assessments, okay? And then I have 2 questions on discriminating among birthing options. And 1 questions relate to the locations where you can give birth, right? Remember, hospital, home, or birthing center. And then we talked about different ways you can choose to deal with the pain during of delivery. We talked about epidurals versus Lamaze methods and other methods of actually choosing to manage the pain during the delivery process. So I have 2 general questions there. Okay, that's cool. Don't worry, Imani. If you make a typo, I am the king of typos. So there is literally no shame in making a typo in my class. But I do appreciate you actually participating and trying to help out. So that's cool. Don't worry about it, Imani. Does anybody have any questions about Chapter 3? Any questions about Chapter 3? Hopefully not. Oh, no. Oh, no. I have been burning my, I just realized that's why my broadcast is slow. I've been burning up my cell minutes here in another country. Crap. That's nice. Good job, Roddenberry, you dummy. Okay, any questions, any questions, any questions? I don't see them, so I'm going to go back to the review sheet, and we're now on Chapter 4. Now, keep in mind, we've only talked about half of Chapter 4, so we're going to cover some of this stuff tomorrow. So don't worry if some of this stuff sounds unfamiliar. Just put this in your mind, and tomorrow as I'm lecturing, just think about this particular piece of the review sheet. Chapter 4 is going to be 12 questions. 8 of those questions are multiple choice. 3 of those questions are true, false. And 1 of those questions is matching. Okay? So, for the infant reflexes, I have 1 general question about infant reflexes. And then we talked about several different types of infant reflexes. I'm going to have a matching question where I ask you to match the reflex name with the type of reflex that it is, what you will see when you stimulate the baby. So there'll be 2 questions on infant reflexes. Okay? Now, there'll be 1 question on the causes of death in infancy. Okay? And then we talked a little bit about the size of newborn baby heads and what you need to do as a parent with these big-headed little baby that you have, right? I also talked about the milestone behaviors that we expect to see in developing children. And I have a general question about the different milestones. And I'm going to give you a description and you're going to tell me which milestone category it represents. So if I told you that a child smiles at the age of 4 months, what milestone category am I talking about? Is that a gross motor milestone, a fine motor milestone? Is that a cognitive milestone? Is that a language milestone? Or is it a socio-emotional milestone? Which one is it? So you're going to have to know that. Okay? Let's see. I then talked about the different kinds, the different ways in which the brain matures during the first few years of life, and actually even later in life. We talked about myelination and dendritic arborization. I'm going to ask you two different questions, one about myelination and one about dendritic arborization. So be familiar with those two things. And then we talked about critical periods and what happens during them and why they are important. Okay? Now you'll notice I skipped one question. That was the item number 2, studying the development of perceptual development. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. And I have 3 questions about that. One is the way in which we study this perceptual development. Another question is on the brain areas related to this perceptual development. And then I have a question that just describes how this process occurs. And I'm going to kind of explain perceptual motor coupling to you tomorrow. And I'm going to have a general question about that. Okay. Any questions there? So I have told you everything I know. I tried to be super duper specific on this exam so that everybody who wants to prepare can prepare and do well on the exam. Do you have any questions before I close the broadcast out? Just remember, oh, actually, you know what? Let's go back really quickly. And I'm going to minimize it a little bit. Okay. So tomorrow, not tomorrow, but on Friday, you'll see here is exam 1. It is right below the exam 1 review link that I have here in the exam folders. If you'll notice right here, it says hidden from students. It will be available after September 16th. That's this Friday at 9 a.m. Okay? So, oh, did I even show you? Did you see that? I hope you saw that. I may not have shared the screen with you. Did I share the screen with you? How long do you have? You have 1 hour to finish 50 questions, okay? Some people do have disability support service letters, which gives them extended exam time. If you have that, there will be a timer on the exam. You must do it all in one sitting, and you have 60 minutes, and there will be a timer. However, the exam will not auto-submit. So if you're allowed to have extra time on your exam, just exceed the time limit, and you won't get an exam grade at first. It'll flag you, and then I'll come back in. I'll check to make sure you have a DSS notice, and if you do, I will accept your exam after the time limit, even though the time limit has been exceeded. All right. Hey, good luck. This exam is super duper easy. So don't you worry a bit. There is nothing to fear. Yeah, I think, I mean, there are different questions, but I'm the guy that wrote the exam questions and I'm the guy that wrote the homework questions. And, you know, I'm going to use kind of the same MO. The wording's going to be the same. I'm thinking the same way. So I think looking at the exams would be kind of helpful for you. Okay? Oh, I'm hoping you make a B or better, Imani. Look, folks, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye and log off. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me a text or an email. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning in class at 10 a.m. Hey, you take care, folks. Have a great day. Bye.